We're still going to be talking about something that's affecting you and I as Nigerian city, which is on national security. We'll be looking at the NBS survey and the growing challenges and everything that pertains it. Now, the National Bureau of Statistics has revealed that 614,937 Nigerians were killed and over 2 million kidnapped between May 2023 and April 2024. Now, in its report, the Crime Experience and Security Perception Survey 2024, the NBS stated that 2.2 trillion naira was paid as ransom, averaging 2.7 million naira per incident. Murder rates were highest in rural areas, with 335,827 compared to urban areas at 279,110. The Northwest recorded the most murder cases of 206,000, followed by the Northeast of 188,992, while the Southwest had the least with 15,693. On kidnappings, 1.6 million occurred in rural areas and 567,850 occurred in urban areas, with the Northwest recording the highest cases of over 1.4 million cases. Now, experts have warned that poor rural residents suffered the most despite high-profile abductions. What does this mean for our security? How does this reflect on our experiences as Nigerians? What does this mean to the supposed fight against security the government keeps talking about? Why are we seeing these numbers? Why are these numbers still on the high side? Well, with us in the studio to have a deep dive into this morning, we have Sen Iroegbu, a security analyst and editor-in-chief, Global Sentinel. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Lilian.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's look at it. What do you make of this report? Let's start with that.
The report, to some of us that are in this sector, is not actually surprising, but I'm sure for the members of the public, it's surprising due to some factors which I've raised in the past when I've had time to analyze such issues. When the current administration came on board, due to the sudden way first subsidy removal was announced, it triggered a lot of economic issues. So most of the effort was dedicated towards mitigating the fallout of the first subsidy removal, the issue of inflation, a high price of fuel and so many things. So we find out that most of the news we also dedicated to coverage of these issues, the economic woes, how people, and then in addition, people were also concentrated on their daily survival. So the report of crimes, kidnapping, criminalities, went under the radar. So what happens is that why this is going on is not reported as it was used to be before. So people thought, okay, most of these things are not still happening. And secondly, find out that most of it actually happened in the rural areas where the news doesn't filter to the urban centers. So coupled with these factors, it was largely subdued. Then the third aspect of it is that Nigerians have actually grown numb of this news. In fact, they've already adapted and gotten used to it. It's a normal life. Before, it's something like shocking. Okay, somebody's kidnapped and all this. So people get triggered, but over time they're getting used to it. It's like part of life. So nobody gives
nobody cares really.
Yes. Now that relates to the next factor. People are struggling with their daily survival to actually care about what is happening to their next door neighbor. So it's all man to himself, survival of the fittest. So in the bid of people trying to survive, struggling, people are working to make sure they put food on the table. So they care less what is happening, the news happening to the other. Okay, someone is kidnapped. Okay, and so what? Me, I'm also trying to survive. So this, kind of diluted some of these issues. So these are some of the factors that help to keep some of these things under the radar. So except you're in the sector or an expert that actually track these issues, you may not know that this kidnapping, the crime is also going on daily basis. Then the final factor is that the issue of large kidnap scenes or incidents that used to give off headline news, like going to school, kidnap like 100, have rape. So what you're having like 20, 2, 10, you know, 50. So this doesn't give you that headline news, but it's happening frequently.
Okay.
So it now it seems as if things are so. These are some of the issues that make it look as if it's extraordinary.
Now we know that when it comes to insecurity, we saw the numbers with the northwest, and then in fact the northern part of the country kept taking it more. What's your thoughts on the regional disparities? There's a lot. We've seen the southwest having the least, from murder rates to ransom payments to even the regular kidnappings. The north, northwest, northeast are leading on this, but we find the south having a reduced number. Why is there so much regional disparities? And at this point, what's your thought on that?
My thought on that is that though the North over the years have suffered this incident, apart from in the South, we used to have, for example, the militancy, which have largely been reduced. There is a kind of latent peace. Not that the underlying factors have stayed there, but due to other factors are peppering over it, so it has reduced. Then the issue of the unknown government, the IPOB activities that was at its height during the Buhari period to have a kind of also subsided. So you find out that in the South, a lot of all this has already subsided. So sometimes some of these things can also link to the politics of it, and maybe the perception of each region over on the administration of the day and how they are reacting to it. But issue of the case of Northeast, Northwest, it has been consistent due to underlying factors. Issue of banditry, that is ravaging the Northwest, and terrorism that also ravaging the Northeast. And another thing you also look into is that the more underdeveloped, or where you have more youth unemployment or less developed or poorer, the higher the crime rate, because the number one law of survival of life is survival. People have to survive, and they have to do everything. So you find out that the poorer the people, or less developed, the higher the crime rate and so you find out that with the mix of the issue of banditry, terrorism, general insecurity, and high youth unemployment, with a lot of out of school children, a lot of things. So we find out that people are, struggling to survive. Crime is, an issue of insecurity. So it's expected that this region will, have this high number, experiences. So except security, issue of security improves, and also development in terms of youth employment also improves.
Okay, hold that thought. So you could give this train of thoughts more depth now. I'm glad you've touched on it, and earlier you touched on rural environment, because we saw that the rural, so you could give it more depth now. We've spoken about the vulnerability of rural areas than urban areas because of underreportage, which is what you said, and inability of people to reach, knowing that this happens on a daily basis because it's underreported due to the fact that they are rural places. And you've already started touching on factors that could improve it. So can you throw more light on the vulnerability of rural areas to this, and what can be done at this point? Let's tilt towards something solution focused. So let's make it brief.
Yes, thank you, because I actually intended to speak on this particular rural issue because of I was almost losing the train of thought. So thank you for bringing me back. It's a sign. If you check all those indices, you find that crime is more in the rural areas, which is an anomaly. Before, it used to be urban crime that is quite more. You find out that the rural areas are more because everybody knows everybody. So the crime is not as much compared to the urban centers where you have urban slum and people are struggling. But you find out that over the years, the reverse is becoming the case. Why? Because of a lot of ungoverned spaces. Most of these rural areas don't have governance presence. So you find out that non-state actors are actually taking over. Then most of the population from the rural areas are now emptying coming to the urban center for safety. So most of the rural areas are increasingly getting deserted, abandoned. So you find out that over the years, if you study that the high rate of ungoverned spaces or criminalities in rural coincide with erosion of local governance system in Nigeria. Before, when we were younger, local government area councils used to be very strong. If they say somebody is a councillor, when we were kids, they say this person is a councillor. We used to rate that person. This person is LG chairman. We used to rate, and we see a lot of development projects they used to do at that level. But over time, power began to concentrate from the state capital to the federal. So a lot of attention, we are no longer paid to the rural areas. And non-state actors saw this vacuum and seized it. So it's all man to himself. So most of the rural are vulnerable to a lot of non-state actors, to a lot of crime and criminalities. So, and that's why most of us have been advocating for community policing, so that you have bottom top or top bottom and a whole society approach. So solution which I've always advocated, we need to strengthen our local governance system back to how it used to be.
And that's why we're seeing the local government autonomy popping up.
Autonomy, the way government is approaching it, I'm not totally support. I support in principle or strengthen local government autonomy, but it doesn't need to be imposed or seems to be imposed from the center. It needs to be something that it may be another topic, so that I don't expand on it and we leave where we're at. So what I'm saying that the local governance system or structure needs to be strengthened. Community policing needs to be strengthened. State policing needs to be strengthened. So that issue of leaving a lot of ungoverned spaces
would be tackled.
And if you don't tackle it, we will still be having this problem. Because what you see is pushing more people coming to the urban center, and then over time, the insecurity will come to the urban. It's already
encroaching gradually. It's just like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. But now let's talk about kidnapping and ransom paid. We saw the amount, 2.2 trillion, I believe.
Yes, 2.2 trillion.
2.23 trillion, yes, for ransom payments, and the rate of kidnappings. Now, looking at that, we know the costs of kidnappings, which you made mention, economic impact and all of that. But how can ransom payments be reduced? Is it possible? Even if the authorities will come and say, oh, we did not pay a dime, nothing was paid for ransom, but the families will tell you a different story saying, oh, we had to contribute to pay. So can it be mitigated? Can it be reduced? How can that be? Look at the wholesome amounts being paid. What's your thoughts on that, and what solutions could be tilted to that angle?
So nothing defeats crime or criminality or when justice is done and the perpetrators are punished. Because the kidnappers or those who receive the ransom money have easy ride getting it, using it. They are not tracked, they are not apprehended, they are not punished. Once that there's no system put in place to track, to apprehend, to prosecute, and bring to justice the perpetrators, it will keep on going on. It will be a kind of circus. People get kidnapped, the victims cry and do all and then they get released if they are lucky. There are some who are also not lucky in this unfortunate incident. So, but if the solution is ability to be able to exert justice,
all right.
So if people who are committing this crime know that they will not go scot-free, no matter what, that they will be tracked, they will be, apprehended, they will be prosecuted, and appropriate punishment meted out, then you find out that it will drastically reduce. You may have left with some hardened ones, but this one is becoming like a kind of lucrative business for a lot of people.
Quick rich, it's a very quick risk. They sharp just kidnap this person and will raise the money. They will pay it because they want their loved ones. But now let's quickly conclude, and it can't be all that bad. What policy recommendations would you say needs to be put in place so we won't see, like you said, to you in the sector, it is not alarming, it was expected, but to Nigerians, this is alarming. So what policy recommendations would you give, briefly, that would see not this kind of numbers, but at least the numbers that would alleviate the fears in the heart of Nigerians, that would tell people that I can travel from A to B and feel safe. I can feel safe in the comfort of my home, be it in my village or my local government or in the urban areas. What policy recommendations would you recommend at this point?
Okay, there are a whole lot. I've mentioned some in the process of my analysis.
True that.
Some short-term, long-term. So I've talked about strengthening our local governance system, which is very important. They have to go and figure out how they will have to achieve that, but it's just one of the solutions. Then intelligence-led operations. We need more intelligence-led operations. Yes, kinetic, but you have to be more, because most of this crime thing is an intelligence issue. Then a top-down, bottom-up approach in terms of security-led approach, which is kind of a whole society, a whole government approach to tackling insecurity, whereby everyone should be involved. Society should be, community should be involved. There have to be a linkage from the community to local government down up to the federal government and downwards. So the actionable intelligence, because there was a time I asked a question when that Kankara school kidnapping, they say they use how many bikes? I say, you mean bike move from one community to another, this number of bikes and no call, nobody cited these people to make a call to say, we cited this moving to so. That means because there's no correlation, there's no feedback mechanism from the community up there and downwards. So a whole society approach, intelligence-led security, a whole society approach to tackling security, also intelligence-led, more intelligence-led. Also the issue of strengthening the local governance system. Then you can't discountenance a development, infrastructure, and youth employment. Because they say an idle mind is devil's workshop. Once youths are gainfully employed, they won't have much mind to be thinking of one evil, how to use criminality, or be available to be recruited. Then also infrastructure development, because most times, most of these take where the roads are bad and all these things. So when you have more development, good road network and all this, it will also help in terms of reducing crime.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head at this point, and I would say it's been a very, very informative, conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a good, interesting conversation. If you're just joining us, we're having a chat with Senator Iroegbu, a security analyst and editor-in-chief, Global Sentinel, and we're looking at the NBC report on insecurity in Nigeria, the statistics that was being released. And I would say, if you missed out, do well to join our live stream to pick up and follow up on the conversation, because you might pick one or two things. But something I picked up from this conversation this morning was, if you see something, say something. Don't be scared. You might be saving a life. You just don't know. If you see something, please pick up a call, pick up a phone, make a call and say something. Be your brother's keeper at all costs. It is only with, community engagement, you as a person speaking up to save a life. If we all do it one way or another in our own little way, we would see a great difference.